Hi, welcome back to Sustainability Circle. My name is Montse, and today we're going to be talking about fast fashion. We're going to be talking to the owner of Novel Supply Co., a local company in Vancouver trying to make a change within the fashion industry.
My name's Kaya, and I am the founder of Novel Supply Co., a sustainable apparel brand in Vancouver, BC.
So why did you decide to start the company?
At Capilano University in my tourism program, I was learning all about sustainability and climate change, and that's kind of what made me want to pursue a career in sustainability. I didn't quite know where yet. So after that, I kind of knew I needed more education in the field of sustainability. So then I took another course at BCIT in sustainable business leadership. And there is where I did a project on textiles waste. And that's kind of where I learned all about how much waste comes from the fashion industry, what materials our clothing is made out of, and how it becomes basically most of our clothing is made out of synthetic materials, which, don't biodegrade, and if they're blended, they're not recyclable, and just all the chemicals and dyes and petroleum and everything that's used in the fashion industry that made me want to do something completely different. And I couldn't really find any brands out there that were doing it to the level of sustainability that I was looking for. So I kind of started it more out of necessity than wanting to do it on my own from the very beginning.
Oh, that's awesome that you took initiative like that.
Yeah, it was not easy, but yeah.
Yeah, so along with that though, so before starting your business, were you aware of sustainable business practices, or did you have to learn everything as you went?
I kind of learned as I went, to be honest. At the time, there wasn't really a lot of research out there. There was, a little bit of some articles on microplastics, but there wasn't a lot of research. So I kind of just learned as I went, and I knew that I wanted to make my clothing the most sustainable it could possibly be. It took 10 times longer, because even just down to the hang tags, I was like, okay, well, I can't have them on, virgin paper. I need to make them recycled, and need to make sure the inks that are printed on the hang tag are biodegradable, and the hang tag attachment I need to make sure is not plastic. So thinking about every step, it's taken a long time to get to where I am, and every decision, takes so much longer. So it's not been an easy road, but I think that it's kind of kept me on the right path and kept me very clear about what choices that I make. And at the end of the day, there are some things you have to compromise on just because they don't exist yet. Certain inks and things, like for screen printing, they're not 100% sustainable, but there is no option for 100% sustainable screen printing inks as of yet that I know of. So you have to gauge each decision and just make the best decision you can based on what's available.
What does sustainability mean to you personally?
I just want to be a part of something better. I want to know that, when I leave this planet, I've done something for the better of humanity. I think it's at this point we're in trouble and there's a lot of problems, and I just decided that this would be my cause and that I would go after this. I can't fix everything, but I can do my best, and I can choose one thing and do the best that I can with that one thing. So yeah, it's just making a better world for future generations, and instead of just going by every day and saying, well, I can't really make a difference, just making the biggest difference you can in whatever area you're passionate about.
Could you describe what greenwashing is and how consumers can be more aware of the clothes that they're buying and their purchases?
A lot of greenwashing is happening right now. Yeah. A lot of brands are claiming to be sustainable or have conscious apparel lines, or they're fully biodegradable, or just using a lot of a lot of the buzzwords. And I think that it's really hard to make any fashion brand like 100% sustainable. You're still using resources, you're still using dyes, you're still having an impact. So I think that consumers can easily get tricked by, oh, this is like a green way, or this is all natural, or this is organic, using a lot of those words. I think that they just, at the end of the day, you can't take for face value. You really have to ask questions. You have to call them out on Instagram, call them out. I'm so happy when people call me out and, you know, start the conversation on Instagram or on Facebook or wherever on social media, because it really gives me an opportunity to explain what I'm doing versus what, you know, H&M or, you know, all the other big brands out there that are what they're doing. So I think that people just, you can't take it for face value. And at the end of the day, people just need to buy less clothing. They need to buy more higher quality garments that are ethically made, that are, you know, using materials that have the least amount of impact, which I would, for me, based on my research, it was hemp. Like, hemp came to the top every time because it requires so much less water than cotton to grow. It's really resilient. It's can grow in many climates. It's naturally antibacterial, so they don't need to use pesticides or herbicides most of the time. That still doesn't include every time. So it's still just doing as much research as you can and asking the brands for those answers. And I think the more people ask those questions and create those conversations, the more brands will have to be held accountable and really actually truly be doing things more sustainably.
In the clothing industry, what are some fabrics that you watch out for?
I don't think there's like one or the other that's worse than the other. I think that every fabric has its pros and cons. I think that like rayon is not good, just based on all the chemicals. I think that regular cotton, standard grown cotton with tons of pesticides it's grown with tons of pesticides, is not good. It uses tons of water, and the people who are growing it are affected by chemicals that are sprayed all over the crops. So yeah, when you're looking for fabrics, you're going to want to make sure. And like, honestly, to me, all the synthetics are not good, just based on the microplastics issue and how much fibers are shedding from our clothes in the wash into the water stream. So I would say stick to your linens, your hemps, your organic cottons, and as natural as possible. And then if you are buying synthetics, because I know that there's a place for synthetics, like people need synthetic garments for their outdoor activities, they're quick dry, they keep you dry and warm if you're in the outdoors. I think that you just need to make sure that you're washing them in, at least you have a filter on your washing machine, or you're washing them in a filter bag, even though at the end of the day, I don't know if that really helps, because you're just throwing it in the garbage anyways, but at least it's not going straight into the water streams. And things that are dyed more consciously. Black is the worst color you can buy, just based on the amount of chemicals and dye is required to make it black. But that is one thing that I'm struggling with right now, to be honest, is figuring out the dyes. And at the end of the day, people want color. There's no way to get around it right now. They are figuring out some technologies and different dyes that are made from more natural properties, but it's not happening quick enough. And at the end of the day, I need color in my line. So I think that is one thing I'm going to have to compromise on is the dyes. They will be reactive dyes, and they will be dyed in a factory that's like certified, but that's the best that I can do kind of at this point. Mm-hmm.
How and why is it so important for you as a business owner to keep the business local?
I think would reduce the amount of shipping all around the world that's happening. I think that's another thing. It's another huge thing that I grapple with every day, is like shipping and shipping materials and all of the carbon footprint of that. And so I try to keep everything as local as I can. And as my brand grows, I'm open to starting up another Novel Supply Co. elsewhere, but keep that local and, partner with local artists in that area, wherever it might be.
I think you touched on this briefly about like the research. There was like a lack of research within clothing, but were there more obstacles that you faced when trying to open this business?
The research that's lacking is like the impacts of polyester if you wear it every day, does it cause cancer? Does it cause certain diseases? Are you literally sweating, and those chemicals and everything that's in that garment, are they getting absorbed into your skin? What's happening with microplastics? Like, there is some research. I think that's the most research that's happening right now is on microplastics, which is great, but we also don't know. It's like, it's not been long enough that we've had this material around that we don't know the true impacts of it long term. And we don't even really know, like, in the landfill, does it ever biodegrade? Some people say 200 years, some people say 100 years. We just, there's a lot of like questions. So yeah, that's where it becomes like, what is the best thing to do? Like, where is the best place to focus your efforts on? And I was at the UN Environment Assembly, and there was somebody who was there from like Prada, I think, and they're the overarching group, and they did some research themselves and said that the biggest, most resource intensive and biggest carbon footprint is when they're extracting the resources. So that is where the biggest impact is. The supply chain is so long. It's like you can't do everything. And for me, I was kind of just focused really hard on the waste aspect of it. So I was like developing my take back program and figuring out solutions for the waste at the end of its life, and figuring out what the best way to deal with that waste is, how to upcycle it and turn it into new products, and how to downcycle it and all of that. So that was kind of my focus.
There's a way to keep up with trends, but still reduce and reduce our footprint, but still keep up with it.
There is this trend of vintage, which is, I think, a good trend, because people are really, reusing clothing that's already there. And that's probably like the most sustainable thing that you can do, just use things that are already made into apparel. And I think you can get really creative when you're shopping vintage, because there's so many different styles. And I think it's one thing that's super important is really like honing in on your style and like knowing what your style is, and like really taking the time to be like, okay, like I don't look good in purple, like stop buying it, just figuring out what your style is, so that when you go to get something new, or you're going vintage shopping, you know what to get and you know what not to get. And so you don't get swayed by marketing, you don't get swayed by the deals and the discounts, and you don't just buy something because you're like, oh, I like this, I think I might wear it. You're like very clear on like, okay, I don't wear purple.
Where do you hope to see, your company and I guess other companies in the future?
I really hope that brands are held accountable. It's going to take some regulation to make brands not use fabrics that are terrible for the environment. I can't wait to see that, see like government get more involved, creating better policy around what brands can and can't use. I think that will create like the fastest, biggest change. And then also having brands take responsibility for the products they're making. So having them be responsible for the consumer's product at the end of its life, like have that not be the consumer's responsibility, because at the end of the day, people are busy. They don't have time to go drop off their clothes at the thrift store. At the end of the day, it's not enough. We need to see a bigger change, a much quicker change, and we need to be using more sustainable fabrics, taking responsibility for those products. We need to see consumers also change and demand change from the brands, because I don't think it'll just be like the government regulating. I think it'll be consumers being, no, we don't want this polyester crap. We want high quality, ethically made, super sustainable fabrics. they're developing fabrics made out of like bacteria and stuff like that. It's amazing what they're coming out with. Consumers just have to put their money where their mouth is and purchase those garments and ask for them and keep questioning brands. And I think that's where we'll see the most change. I think the more students, the more people, the more brands get involved and keep talking about it, I think the better. And I'm just really stoked you guys chose this topic and reached out to me. So thank you guys.
Well, thank you so much again.
Thank you guys. Have a good one.
Thanks for watching this episode of Sustainability Circle. All information is going to be down below in the description bar, and I hope to see you guys next week. Bye!